we go. YouTube is going live. All right. Hello, everybody. Instagram, YouTube, Facebook times 2, actually. So nice to see you guys. This is a weekly video that I make called Tuesday Talks with Azren. So basically what happens is you guys vote on a topic for today, a topic that you'd like to see me talk about. And then we throw on some cameras on YouTube and Instagram and all these different places, Facebook and all these places. And then we talk about it. Also want to give a shout out to Novin Ramsar on Instagram, because he gave I typed the title for the video and he gave another suggestion for it. And I was like, oh, that's a good suggestion. So the title is all thanks to Novin Ramsar on Instagram. And so we're going to be, so the votes that happened, by the way, if you do want to vote on future week's topics for these videos, you can do so by going to our Facebook group. So every Monday we post a survey, a poll, and the Facebook group is called the Language Learning Nerds. That's where this poll gets posted. And so this week's topic that we're talking about is learning grammar in another language. And I put a bit of a learning without grammar in brackets, and that's going to be a part of our conversation today. So first things first, when you're learning, I'll give some different pieces of advice for learning grammar and really being able to internalize grammar. So the first thing I will say is I think going and studying some of the grammar rules is not a bad idea. Go learn some of the grammar rules. Google it, YouTube it, ask a friend, ask your teacher, learn the rules. There's nothing wrong with learning the rules. And that, for many people, a big percentage of you, that will help you quite a bit. If you know how the grammar rules work, it will help you quite a bit. I understand that there are some people, and it depends on your circle and it depends on who you talk to, but some people are against grammar in the sense that they don't like studying grammar rules, they don't like practicing their grammar, they don't like doing that, which I can respect, and that's totally fine. But I do think that that being said, that's not everybody, and I think there is a 50, 60, 70% of people that are totally fine learning grammar. What's that? Yeah. Oh, for when she's walking?
Like when she walks and she drinks.
She can't multitask.
No, I'm just saying.
Oh, you mean, sorry. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine.
That's what I mean.
Yeah. Water is fine. Yeah. That's fine. All right. What was I saying? Yeah. So even though there's a good percentage of people that don't necessarily enjoy learning grammar and don't necessarily enjoy doing that and all that stuff, and it's not their cup of tea, there's a very significant percentage of people as well who have no issue with learning grammar rules and doing grammar drills, and it really can work. It can really, really work. So that's tip number 1. Tip number 2 that I would say is related to learning the grammar rules is I'm not opposed to learning and doing grammar drills like worksheets. I'm not opposed to it. Doing worksheets, filling out the blanks, doing declension charts. So those are like where you have I eat, I ate. Sorry, in the present tense, I eat, you eat, he eats, she eats, we eat. In French, je mange, tu manges with an S, il mange, nous mangeons, vous mangez, il mange, ENT. I'm not opposed to that at all. I think it's totally fine. I really do think it can help a lot of people. It can really, in the initial phases, it can help you cover a lot of ground. Now, after you study the theory, you've done a bunch of exercises, grammar exercises, things like that. Understand that for a good percentage of people, that's not going to be enough. Some people, that'll be fine. Like it'll get in your head after you do that, and you will not be perfect, but you'll be okay. You'll be fine, right? You'll be okay. You'll be okay, but you're not perfect with it. But that's a good start to kind of help with getting that in your head, right? But it's often going to take more than that. So after that, what I would recommend is I think having someone to speak with, whether it's a teacher, whether it's a conversation partner, whether it's even yourself, heck, it could be yourself on your phone and you're recording yourself. Like having someone to talk with where you're talking about whatever you're talking about, where you're trying to incorporate those things, right? You're trying to incorporate those things in your speech. That will also help you kind of internalize that further, internalize those grammar points further. Similarly, it's a strategy. This is more of a long-term strategy, but if you're consistently doing a lot of listening, songs, podcasts, videos, graded readers, like graded stories, stuff that is simplified. So for example, if you're a beginner, you can often find stories that are designed for beginners in that language. Reading those, listening to those, right? If you're always reading and listening to different things, you know, stories, things like that, you'll start to hear and notice like, oh, that's that je mange thing. That's the present tense of manger. Oh yeah. I know that. I know what that means. Right. I know that. That'll really help you. Often for me, I've got to say, like, one of the things that really helps me with grammar and gets me to internalize it, it takes a long time. But one thing that helps me is that I'm always doing a lot of input, more listening and conversing than I am reading, but I read a little bit too. But for me personally, a little bit more listening, I would say. And after a year, or every year that goes by, I've done thousands of hours of listening. And so after a while, you start to hear certain phrases, right? So many times where your brain's like, oh, that's just how it's said. And then all of a sudden you're saying, I say certain things naturally, or certain things come across as natural to me. And I even forgot what the grammar is behind it. I just know that's how it is. Like just the other day, I was talking to a student of mine, and she's a Mandarin learner, and we're talking about a word called "do." I think she says something like "我每天都喜欢喝茶" or something like that, which is like every day I like to drink tea or something like that. I can't remember the exact sentence, but or I think it's like 我每天都很 oh yeah, I think it's like 我每天 she said 我每天很忙, which means I'm busy every day. If you translate that to English, it makes perfect sense. And I was like, yeah, you could also say 我每天都很忙, and we're just kind of talking about that. And she's like, why is there a do? Why is that there? What's the grammar behind that? That doesn't make any sense. And in my head, I was like, I don't even know what the grammar is anymore. I've just heard that so many times now that I know that that's grammatically correct. And that's grammatically how it should be. So in this title, right, we have this learning with, in brackets, I wrote without grammar. I kind of wrote that, right? And I think it's because does learning the grammar rules help? Yes, especially initially, it will really, I think it'll help a lot of people. But is it enough? Often, no. Often that's not, knowing the grammar rules is not going to be the thing in the end of the day that maybe helps you to have it fully internalized. Not necessarily. What's going to really help you have it internalized is you having heard lots of people say things in certain ways, and it becomes ingrained in your head. Perhaps you saying things in a certain way various times, right? And you've said it so many times now, and you know it's correct now that it becomes second nature, kind of like muscle memory, right? That's kind of the big stuff that's really going to help internalize grammar, I think, for most people. I'll give a couple of other one-off strategies for grammar. I'm gonna look at the chat too, kind of check some of the chats and make sure there's no questions and stuff. There's a couple comments. Okay, I'll look at those in a second. I'll read those out in a second. A couple other one-off strategies. I do think writing journals is a great way to kind of get grammar, the correct grammatical structures in your head. How do I say this? If you practice writing little journals every day and you practice on getting those grammatical structures right without the help of a translator, where you're actually using your brain to conjugate verbs and get the word order right and do all of that, you're getting it corrected, you're seeing where you make your mistakes, that can really help you. Now, understand that every strategy this is not just for grammar, but every strategy has diminishing returns. So what this means is no matter what you're trying to improve in another language, you'll find a strategy. It's going to work reasonably well. But after a certain point of time, that strategy is not going to work as well anymore. Eventually, the strategy you use stops working to the same level of effectiveness. It stops working to the same level of effectiveness. So the journals will help you initially, where you're writing journals on a day-to-day basis about whatever topics, and you're trying to nail the grammar points that you've studied. That will help you as well. I've seen a couple of comments here about worksheets don't help us speak. I agree. Worksheets do not help you speak. It really doesn't. All worksheets are good for is in the initial phases of learning something new grammatically. Worksheets will help you to just get help you understand the grammatical pattern on an intellectual level. It's just step one. It's not going to help you speak. It's just step one. It's just step one, right? It's all it is. It's just step one. That's all it is. And you're going to it's going to take more than that. It's going to take more than that to really get it internalized. So yeah, let's keep going on this. So another strategy which will work, especially if it's grammar that is more complex. I just see a comment here. Let's change the topic to how we can speak without grammar. Let's get to that now, actually. So two comments on this comment, I have 2 comments. How can you speak without having to learn grammar? 2 things. Number 1, we're going to lose a lot of people as I say this. My opinion is not very popular on this, but it's what I believe. And I've worked with hundreds of language learners for thousands of hours, not just myself. So I've thousands of hours. So this is based on a heavy amount of personal experience. But 2 things. First of all, when it's more complex grammar that doesn't exist in your language, one thing that can help is if you learn phrases first that incorporate that grammar point. Let me give you an example. In English, we don't have a subjunctive, but in French and Spanish, there is a subjunctive. And I remember the French subjunctive is probably the best example. I used to use subjunctive in my speech without knowing exactly what I was doing. I had heard people use certain phrases and I'd been corrected on how I'd said certain things. And so I knew if I want to say I have to do my homework, I have to say il faut que je fasse mes devoirs. Il faut que je fasse is a subjunctive. And I didn't know what the heck's going on grammatically, but it's something I said. And there were probably 5 to 8 phrases that I would use regularly in the subjunctive. And I kind of, in the back of my mind, understood generally how it worked, generally speaking. And the reason I was able to understand the subjunctive without having ever studied the subjunctive was because of certain things I just said that were phrases that incorporated the subjunctive. And my brain had kind of figured out a bit of a pattern with it, where I could kind of figure out when to use it with reasonable degree of accuracy. It did help. I'm going to be honest. It did help when I actually later went and studied some of the actual rules. It filled in some of the gaps in my head. It filled in some of the gaps. But yeah, I used to speak with the subjunctive without having actually learned the subjunctive. I just used a lot of phrases that incorporated the subjunctive. And then my brain kind of filled in a lot of the gaps. And then studying the actual grammar really filled in all the gaps. And then I could really use it properly 100% of the time. Now, my perspective on learning without grammar, there's a couple things that I want to say. And again, I don't think my perspective is a popular perspective, but it's just what my perspective is as of right now after all the people that I've worked with and taught languages to, and of course my own personal experiences. I think if your goal with learning a language is to get your point across, all you want to do is you want to have a strong enough level where you can get your point across and you could generally understand what is said back to you. And you're not worried about achieving a super advanced level in the language. I don't think you necessarily need to go learn all of the grammar rules and be perfect with your grammar. I don't think so. I think because then you're not worried if like my grandma is a great example on my dad's side. She's a really good example. Her grammar is not good. you should see her write. Like when I receive text messages from her, I'm like it's not well written. It really isn't. And when she speaks, she makes every grammar mistake in the book, and there's pronunciation errors in there too. But all the key words are there, and she has lots of friends, and she talks, and you understand, but she gets everything across, but every grammar mistake in the world is in her speech, right? She'll be like, "You want to eat, eh?" Instead of "Do you want to eat?" "You want to eat, eh?" Like it's just wrong, right? But you get your point across. And if you're cool with that, awesome, good for you, right? That's great. Then by all means, you're in good shape. Then you don't need to go learn all the grammar rules. Go learn keywords. Stick your keywords in the sentence in a way that is at least kind of in the right order, and off you go. Great, that's fine. There's nothing. That's more amazing. That's great. And yeah, I don't think you need to go learn a heck of a lot of grammar. Go learn key vocabulary. Go learn your question words, go learn verbs, go learn nouns, go learn the stuff, go learn some random phrases, string it all together, and you'll get your point across and you'll have no issues, right? However, I find that not everybody's in that boat, right? I don't think everyone's in that boat. Again, as I told you, I've worked with hundreds of people over thousands of hours, and I don't think some people are in that boat, and that's cool. But not everybody's in that boat. And so I think for people that are not in that boat, like studying grammar is okay, and it will help you. Especially, careful, make sure you hear everything I say. It's funny how people take away the stuff they want to take away from videos. They don't take away the full message. They hear what they want. All of us do it, myself included. So careful. It's not just about studying grammar. It's also about talking with other people, doing listening, like listening to lots of things on a day-to-day basis, doing your written journals, sure, doing some worksheets if you want, doing some quizzes, like that stuff is cool too, but it's got to be a holistic approach. And if you really want to get good at different grammar points in different languages, I think the most unpopular thing ever, but it's the truest thing ever. I've said it 100 times. I'll keep saying it again and again. The big thing is it's probably going to take you a long time to nail your grammar. Long time as in years of consistent effort. Probably. If you want to really be good at all aspects of grammar, probably. But you can get there. You can get there. It is definitely possible to get there. Anything else I want to say on grammar? Let me think of other tips I want to share. If not, we'll go to, there's other questions in the chat and stuff. So I'll have a look at all those and answer them. So anything else on grammar that I'd like to say? I don't think so. No, I don't think there's anything else on grammar I want to say. So so here's what we'll do. We'll answer people's questions, and then I have one random other thought I want to share that'll be useful. Let's start with the random thought. So the random thought I want to share, it's so funny how much of life and languages is just about showing up. Just about showing up. You know, this is a stand-up comedian I really like, interesting fellow that I've been listening to recently by the name of Joey Diaz, and he also has a podcast, and he's on lots of podcasts and blah blah blah. He said there's something he said a few times now. I've heard him say it in different podcasts and stuff, and it really sticks with me. And he says it so nonchalantly that it's like, wow, he says it's really profound to me. He says, like, yeah, he does jujitsu. Is it judo or jujitsu? Anyway, one of the two. He's like, yeah, I sucked for a long time. He's like, I was really bad. My pants would fall down, couldn't tie it right. I couldn't do the moves. People would beat me. I'm not that good. He's like, I'm still not very good. Like, I kind of suck, right? He's like, but I just kept going. You just keep showing up. You suck. He's like, yeah, in stand-up. He's like, I sucked at stand-up for 5 years, and then I was good at it. He's like, well, I'll just suck at judo for 5 years or jujitsu for 5 years, and I'll be pretty good at it. Like, I'm just going to go every 2 times a week, keep going for 5 years. I'm just going to keep going. I'm just going to keep doing it. Keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up, keep showing up. For 5 years is what the wording he used. 5 or 6, one of the two. And it was just so meaningful. He said it, and he gave a different story, which was similar. He talked about doing open mics as a stand-up comedian. He's talking about doing open mics, and he's like, yeah, there's people you see and they just keep showing up and they keep showing up. And he's like, look, listen, they're not going to make it to Hollywood. These are not going to be the people that you see on Netflix. They're not going to have Netflix specials. But he said it's admirable to see someone who they know, okay, look, I'm a doctor, I'm this, I'm not going to be on Netflix specials. That's not going to happen. But they keep showing up, and they become pretty good at what they do. They're a good open micer. They can get some laughs. They're pretty good. They can go on. They can do a decent set. And I kind of view language learning similarly. Not everyone, even me, I'm not going to be the guy that goes and that speaks 27 languages. That's not going to be me. You know those people, you see those videos, like he speaks 12 languages. He speaks 22 languages. She speaks this and that. He learned Spanish in a week. And it's like, what? What did you do? How do you do that? Like, it's probably not going to be me. Or if it is me, I'm going to be like an 89-year-old man who speaks 12 languages. And it's like, wow, how'd you do it? It's like, well, I started learning when I was born. When I was born, I was stuck in a French school and I spoke Gujarati. Then I studied Spanish. I did that for like 8 years and I got really good. Then I learned Mandarin. I did that for like 10 years and I got pretty good. Then I learned Hindi. That only took me 6 years because I spoke Gujarati. Then I learned Russian. Wow, that took me 12 years. Then I learned, and then it's like 5, 8 years like that like, so I'm not going to be that, like, I'm not going to be the guy who speaks a bunch of languages unless I'm like super old, then maybe by that time. So, so you have to understand, like, you might not be the person that's going to be the guy or the girl that looks exactly like the, a native speaker. Maybe that's not going to be you, but what you can do is if you go put in your 7 years and you're pretty consistent with it, you might become a pretty darn good French speaker. Are you perfect? No, but you can turn on the TV. You can understand most of what they say. People talk to you. You don't feel scared anymore. You can get your words across. People understand you, and you don't struggle too much anymore. And maybe you can't read books without a dictionary because that's too hard. Maybe with a dictionary you could. Maybe that's above your level, but you're pretty freaking comfortable, right? So all that to say, like, it's just like that day in, day out, day in, day out. Understand it's going to be 5 years, maybe not 5 years, maybe not 10 years, maybe not 5, 10 years, maybe it'll be less, maybe. But if you're ready to put in a long time, that's a way, it takes mental stress off. Okay, let's answer people's questions. I see questions and comments. Let me just get to them here. There's a lot. Let me go to Instagram first. Let me scroll to the top here. Scroll through them all. A lot of people said filling worksheets doesn't help us speak. I agree. Worksheets would just be step one. It's not going to. The purpose of the worksheet is not to help you with speaking. The purpose is just to kind of initially get the grammar in your head, right? क्या आप हिंदी बोलता है? नहीं. No, I don't speak Hindi. पर मैंने गुजराती आवड़े છે અને મને हिंदी समझू છું. Okay. Anything else here? I think just practice makes perfect. You can learn how to write an IELTS task with learning some ready formats. Yeah, that's true. Yep. Do you get tired? Everyone gets tired. Yeah, of course. When I'm tired, I go to sleep or I rest. Although we'll get there in a second. Yeah, that's and know nothing. I don't know what that means. I don't understand that comment. Okay. Put this back down. On the note of getting tired, I do get tired, but I think I do. I've thought about this a lot. Let me open other comments and I can answer them, but let's quickly do this first. Here we go. So for getting tired, I was thinking about it. Like, I work about 10 hours-ish a day, roughly 10 hours a day, approximately. Yeah, about 10 hours a day, which people go, what? You work 10 hours a day? I work 6 days a week, typically. Saturdays I work a little less. Sundays I work a bit, but not a lot. Anyway, so they're like, wow, don't you get tired? I'm like, well, I mean, no, because aren't we awake for 16 hours? Aren't we awake for 16, 17 hours, depending on how much you sleep? So if you're awake for 16 or 17, that's how much I'm awake, and you work 10 or 11, so you've got like 6 hours to yourself. Isn't that a lot of time? I feel like that's a lot. I always wonder like, why do people think 10 hours of work is a lot? Because it really isn't, because you're awake for 16 or 17. So you've got 6, 7 hours of time left. Like, how much fun stuff you do in 6-7 hours. I have so much work-life balance. It's crazy. It just doesn't, I don't know, 10 hours a day of working. It's not a lot of work. I mean, it is a lot of work. It's a lot, but it's like you have a lot of free time with 10 hours a day. Anyway, so hello, Azren. Really nice tips. I'm wondering, what languages do you speak or are you learning? English, French, Spanish, Mandarin, Gujarati right now. Those are the 5 I speak with different degrees of fluency. English, French, and Spanish I speak super well. Mandarin I speak pretty well, but I've got lots to learn. And Gujarati I speak pretty well, but I've got lots to learn. So I think it also depends on the education system in some countries. For example, in Mexico, I feel the schools only focus on grammar rather than practicing speaking. Yeah, I agree. That's like that's almost every school. That's basically everybody. Like most schools focus more on the reading and writing than the speaking. Like that's just how it is for some reason. I will say this though. Like I got to make a point here. So I'm studying at the University of Calgary, right? I'm a part-time student. I work full-time, but I'm a part-time student at the University of Calgary. I'm doing a Mandarin degree, rather an East Asian language studies with a concentration in Mandarin degree right now. And I also did previously a French and Spanish degree. And I've got to say something. You know, the French and Spanish program and the Mandarin program so far is a heavily reading and writing based program, right? There is some speaking. It's not to say there's no speaking, right? Once you get to a certain point, professors will teach classes in the target language. You have to give presentations, but it's not a super conversation or speaking heavy focus, not really. But I've got to say, it's interesting to see that people who end up graduating with the degree do usually speak reasonably well. They're not perfect, they're not like a native speaker, but they speak at a good level of fluency. I'm looking at right now, I'm a third-year Chinese class right now. People can speak, man. Like they're not perfect, but people speak. Even through all this reading and writing and stuff. And I think about it, and I think what it comes down to, and the reason that people who finish the program end up speaking pretty darn well, I think the reason for it, because people pee and poo-poo. They say, oh, this sucks, the reading and writing. I gotta say though, I look at the results of these universities, like the number of people that come out with a degree that speak pretty well. I think the reason is university classes are structured as so. You know, even my one class, I've got class 3 days a week, and I have to do homework. Now, I don't do homework because I don't really care if I get the A's and like the top marks. So, but typically people do homework almost every day of the week. So 5, 6, 7 days a week, you're doing Mandarin, and that's just with one class. If you're a full-time student, you probably got 2 or 3 Mandarin classes. So you're doing 3 hours of listening to your teacher talk, writing, reading, some presentations, a little bit of speaking here and there. You write some scripts. You're doing so much of it. You're doing like 3 hours, 4 hours a day, right? And you do that for 4 years. You do figure the speaking out because you have to give presentations and stuff, right? So it's not a heavy speaking focus, but it's interesting that with brute force, the brute force nature of the university, it really does produce some results, right? It really can, and people do actually figure it out. It's super interesting to see. Some people get better than others because maybe they do some self-study and blah, 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 but it's really interesting, super interesting to me. Anyway, lots of comments here on YouTube. Username says, hey, I'm the first one here. Yes, you are. Welcome. Tessa, nice to see you. Learning rules as an adult is an advantage we shouldn't ignore, but exposure/repetition does work. I think kids' books, rhymes, big dog, little dog, red dog, blue dog teaches adjectives then nouns without the rule. Yeah, that's true. I would agree. I think the exposure and repetition will work. And I think the kids' books that use exposure, I think that can work really well too. I agree. Correct grammar is only needed if the other person is working with you. What you're saying about key vocab got me through India. I sounded very caveman-esque. Yeah, totally. Cool. There are many fake polyglots on YouTube. I don't know if it's a fake polyglot. I disagree. I don't think it's fake polyglots. I don't think so. I really don't. I think it's that, going back to what I was saying earlier, like it depends on what you're trying to accomplish, right? If you're just trying to get your point across, and it's kind of like I made a podcast and I made a YouTube video too, I think, saying you can learn a language in 3 months. You can learn a language in 3 months. You hear about this, learn a language in 3 months. Absolutely you can. The question becomes, what is your definition of learning a language, and what do you learn in those 3 months? That's where we hit our question here, right? So let me explain what I mean. you know, let's say I was moving, let's say I was going, here's a great example. Let's say I was going to be volunteering, I've done this before, volunteering in a school where Mandarin is the medium of instruction. And I'm going to be volunteering in a kindergarten classroom. I did this once, okay? And I'm like, crap, I'm going to be volunteering in a kindergarten classroom that's Mandarin speaking. Wow, I'm going to have to, I have 3 months to get ready. Oh, I have to learn Mandarin. You can do it. What you have to do is you have to focus on what Mandarin do you need to know to volunteer successfully in that school. And guess what? When you're in that school, you'll be able to learn enough Mandarin, talk with the kids, ask them stuff, understand what they say to you, talk to the teacher, understand the instructions, right? Get through those situations, and you'll be able to get through your days relatively scratch-free, relatively easily with 3 months of intensive study, for sure. But you won't know everything in 3 months. So why am I saying that? Well, I'm saying that because you're saying here, it's insane humano on YouTube. What you're saying here is like they're fake polyglots. I don't think they're fake polyglots. I think they chose what they wanted to learn. Often they've learned enough to have those initial conversations, those small talk conversations naturally, and that's what they focus their attention on, or they all focus on different things. And often they can do what they're able to do, And they're not fake because they've chosen to learn a specific skill set in the language and they can do it really well. I think it's commendable. I really think it is. People that go learn 10 languages and they're adequately fluent, not super fluent, but they're adequate in those 10 languages, that's a big accomplishment. That's really difficult to do, especially when they do it quickly. Like, wow, like I bow down to you. Like that's so impressive. I've never done it, nor am I interested in doing it. It doesn't interest me. It's not my interest in languages. My interest is learning a language to a high level of depth, to such a fluent level that I can explain. Like you can throw literature at me and I'll be okay with it. You can put me in any social situation, I'll be okay. My pronunciation is near perfect. I know about, like the way I treat it is it becomes a lifelong journey. It's not something that's just a 1 month, 3 month, 6 month project for me personally. So yeah, I don't think there's fake polyglots. I really don't think so. We also have Insane Umano who's saying, how do I push myself from intermediate to advanced? And they're saying specifically for Spanish and French. So that's an interesting question. How do you get to intermediate to advanced? I get it a lot. The first thing to understand is that this almost deserves its own specific video, to be honest. That's okay. I'll answer it the best I can. If you want to go from intermediate to advanced, the biggest thing for people that are struggling to go from intermediate to advanced, the biggest thing in my opinion is that people think it's going to take a lot less time than it actually does. That's the real problem. I think if I had to like narrow it down, the biggest issue is nothing to do with, let me say that again. If you're struggling from going from intermediate to advanced, the problem is very little to do with your study strategy and has a lot to do with how long you've been learning. In 9 times on 10, that's the issue. It's not that you're studying the wrong way. It's not that your strategies are ineffective. It's that you've only been trying to go from intermediate to advanced for 2 years. And even maybe it wasn't 2 years. Maybe in the 2 years, you took some breaks and you weren't super intensive or you weren't very intentional about it. So maybe in that 2 years, it's really only like a year. So you've only been working towards it for a year when it really might take you 3 or 4, right? So you're just early. You know, it's like people that say when they're like, this is such a good video. I'll have lots of clips to pull out from this. It's like people when they're like 22 years old and they're like, I'm so lost. I don't know what my passion is. I don't know what to do with my life. And I don't know what I like. I don't know what job I want to do. I don't know what I'll do after I graduate university. Oh, I'm so confused. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're young. You're just young and inexperienced. You thought you needed to have it figured out by 22, but nobody has it figured out by 22. You cannot, it's very difficult to have it figured out by 22. It's really difficult. So you're not lost, you're not confused, you're just early. You're just early in the process. You're just young. You're just, that's all it is. So in intermediate to advanced, that tends to be the biggest challenge. That tends to be the biggest thing. Tends to be. Now you might need to tweak your strategy. I'm not saying that, you know, maybe you've got some strategies that are not the most effective for you. That I don't know, because it's we're not face to face and we can't really talk about it. So maybe it's worth, I'll even put, if you want, just book some time with me. I'll just throw a link in here. I just threw, wrong link. Sorry. Not that one. Wrong link. There we go. Second link. So Insane Humano, feel free to click that link and we can just chat one-on-one. It's free. Like it's just it's my calendar. You can book time with my calendar. So yeah, like feel free to chat with me. I'm happy to like kind of look at your situation in more depth and maybe look at the strategies you're using, because maybe there might be some tweaking we should do, maybe. But the biggest thing, it takes a long time. So check this. I've been learning Mandarin since let me think about this. Since 2000, maybe 2015, maybe late 2014, probably 2015, I think is more accurate. 2015, I think, is when I started learning Mandarin. And I've been pretty consistent with it, like pretty good. There were, in that 5-year window, there have been a couple blurps where I wasn't doing a lot of study, like for 3 months at a time. So maybe let's say I've been studying for 4 years within my 5 years. Like within 5 years, I've really done 4 years of consistent study, maybe. Right now I'm doing very consistent study, like almost daily. I also use Mandarin at work now, and like I really do a lot of Mandarin nowadays. So after 4 years, let's say, I've achieved kind of a mid to get approaching an upper intermediate, approaching, not quite there, but definitely pretty conversational. I can talk to you, I can understand any day-to-day stuff. Like I'm pretty comfortable. But for me to get to an advanced level, I'm picturing it to take me another, I don't know, like I haven't even thought about it, like years, like more than 2 years. And me, I take Mandarin classes at a university level 3 days a week. I run a conversation group once a week for an hour and a half. I teach a drop-in class once a week in Mandarin. I teach some beginner students Mandarin once or twice a week. I do my Mandarin homework a few times a week. I'm always listening to things in Mandarin, mostly music, but also certain other things on YouTube and stuff every day. So I'm going to do 2 years. I'm thinking minimum to be advanced in Mandarin, 2 more years of daily studies. Like that's what I'm picturing in my head, like minimum. And I wouldn't be shocked if it takes me more. I would not be shocked if in 2 years I'm like, oh, I'm a lot better, but I'm not as advanced as I'd like to be. I can really picture that. I wouldn't be shocked. So it takes a long time, typically. Okay, let me look at other comments to answer here, questions. Hi, Karen, nice to see you. I feel the same way and I'm way past my 20s. Yep, totally. KNN is the best English school that I've ever been to. Cool, haven't heard of it, but nice, awesome. Thanks for the recommendation. Hi, Azren. I've enjoyed these Tuesday talks, but I've missed a few. Are these videos available anywhere to view? Yes, absolutely. So they're on YouTube. So YouTube's probably the easiest place to find them. If you search Azren, if you literally search Tuesday Talks with Azren, you'll find a playlist that has them all. You can also, like Instagram, if you go to my Instagram, what do you call them? My Instagram TV, IGTV, you'll find them in there. Not all of them are there because I wasn't always doing them on Instagram, but you will find them now. Facebook, you can go to I think, isn't there a way to see videos that a page is posted? I think there's a way to do that. I think there's a way to see what videos have been posted by a page or in a group. In the group, they should all be tagged in the Facebook group. If you're watching this there, they should be tagged as Tuesday Talks with Azren. So yeah, let me see. There's one more question I see here. Let me on Instagram. Let me throw it on the screen. That's cool. I didn't know I could do that. All I do is learn grammar and I still cannot speak with fluency. Well, that's probably why, because all you do is learn grammar, Mariana. Mariana, the reason you cannot learn grammar is because all you do is you learn grammar. That's a problem. You cannot only try to learn grammar, because that's not gonna help you speak with fluency. That's not gonna be the thing that helps you speak with fluency. Not only studying grammar. Unfortunately, no. Unfortunately not. It's like I said earlier in the video, study your grammar, sure, do your worksheets, you know, study the grammar rules, do some exercises. I love journaling, write journals and try to incorporate the grammar. You know, I love that activity. It's super effective. Do that, absolutely great. But you also have to listen to things in the language, things on YouTube, podcasts, audio, simple audio books if you're more beginner. You have to talk with people. Try to talk and have practice conversations with people. You have to maybe take some classes. You can't only study grammar, of course. If all you do is study grammar and you still can't speak with fluency, I'm like, well, without being mean, I'm like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. Of course, you can't only learn grammar and try to speak and expect yourself to speak fluently. Of course not. It's not how it works. It's like saying, here's a good analogy. It's like saying, I want to have a six-pack. And all I do, wait, hang on. It's like saying, no, hang on. It's like not a six-pack. It's like saying, I want to run. Here's one. I want to hike up a really tall mountain. All I do is squats. To strengthen my legs, but I still can't climb up the mountain. I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense, because to climb up the mountain, you do need strong legs, but it's not the only thing you need. You need more than that. So for fluency, speaking fluently, sure, grammar is great, and you should study grammar, but it's not the only thing you need to do. So you can't only study grammar and then expect yourself to speak fluently. That doesn't make any sense. So any other comments or questions here? It's been a longer one, 43 minutes. Let me see. Speaking, I've learned more by speaking than anything else so far, mainly. Good job. That's awesome. Hola, Kina. Nice to see you on YouTube. Here we go. What do you think about accent? How do we get rid of it? If yes, what is the best? Basically saying, what's the best way to improve pronunciation and get rid of like your accent, your foreign accent in a language? So I only have like 5 or 6 minutes left, so I can't expand on this as much as I'd like to, but I'll give a couple of quick tips. So so there's a few things. I think number one, it will help you if you take 10 to 15 hours of your life and you study if you study some basic phonetics, learn some of the International Phonetic Alphabet, IPA, learn about how sounds are formed in the mouth and the vocal cords, how that works. Take 15 hours of your life and go learn, get an introduction. Use Google and YouTube. There's lots of videos about it. Search beginner phonetics, basic International Phonetic Alphabet is a good way, right? Take 15 hours and go down the rabbit hole of watching videos on YouTube, reading blog posts, learn. That's a good start, because if you can do that, you can, if you're struggling to pronounce a word or something and you're trying to figure out how to fix it, you can look at, in phonetic terms, what those words or phrases need to look like or sound like. And then you could use those phonetic terms, understand them, and then you know exactly what to do with your mouth in order to produce that. Does that make sense? It's kind of like most people learn language by ear, right? They try to hear it and then they try to imitate it, and that's just how they do it, which is fine. but we don't learn music by ear. Now, some people learn music by ear, and that's great, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people need to learn how to read the music. They learn how to read it. They learn how to read their sheet music. They learn F-A-C-E, all the spaces in musics and the treble clef are F-A-C-E. Good boys deserve fudge, right? Like every whatever. It's been so long since I've studied music, but if you can read music, you can read the note and you're like, oh, that's the note I have to play on my trumpet. That's the note I have to play on my trombone. That's the note I have to sing. Oh, okay. And your brain knows what to do. Your hands know what to do. You know what to do to make that note. And it sounds great. So if you know some basic phonetics, you can do the same thing. You can read, you can see, almost like you can read music. You can read and understand instantly exactly what you have to do to produce that sound. And then it's a matter of controlling the muscles in your mouth to create that sound. Does that make sense? So that's really what I'd highly recommend. And then after that, it's just like going to the gym. It's just like going to the gym. You go to the gym, you work out your arms, you do push-ups, you run, you do cardio, you do squats, you do bench presses, you do crunches, you do them over and over, and your muscles get stronger. You get muscle memory on how to do those exercises. And one day you're doing them pretty good. You can lift these big weights and blah, blah, blah. Your body's figured it out. Mouth is the same thing. You got to train your mouth muscles. You got to first learn what the heck are you doing that gives you your accent. You might have to hire someone for an hour of their time, right? Like someone like a phonetician or a accent reduction person to really kind of get an analysis of what you need to work on. And then you got to go work on those things. And if you can afford it, you can pay them consistently for weekly classes or something to work with you. And then you got to go spend the next 3 years of your life the same way if you try to get really fit and really strong, right? You having a really good pronunciation is very comparable to you being in extremely good shape. Flexible, strong, fast, lift stuff, and have agility and being in tip-top shape is very similar to having perfect pronunciation. So imagine how much work it would take to be flexible, strong, fast, agile, thin, healthy, good nutrition. Imagine the amount of work and time that would take you. That takes a long time. And that's how long it takes you to fix your mouth and do the same thing with your mouth. To make your mouth blah, 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 to make your mouth all agile and good takes a long time as well. Very similar. So do you use Anki or Anki? A little bit, not a lot. I have used it and I do use it. Do you have any study plan to learn these 5 languages? What? Oh, do I have any study plan to practice my 5 languages every week? Not really, but I'm just lucky. I teach a bunch of them. So that's what I do. I run the Calgary Language Nerds. So we run classes for languages. And so I'm teaching French and I speak every language every day. I just use it every day. I use it all the time. So I don't have a particular plan per se. Okay, I gotta go, guys. This went way longer than I initially planned. That's okay. Hope you guys liked it. Let me say goodbye to Instagram first. See you, Instagram. Bye-bye. We will share this to IGTV. Okay, I'll do that after. Let's do YouTube next. See you, YouTube. Bye-bye. 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 See you.